Hello.
Hello.
Hello?
Yeah, is it audible or not?
Yes, sir.
It's audible, sir.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. All of you know about our syllabus. Okay. Textbook. Open the textbook. In first, first unit. What are the topics do you have? Hello. Hello.
Sir, there's a lot of disturbance, sir.
No, all of you, please mute your device.
All my dear,
Please, all
please
of you.
mute mic and video. Then
Please.
only we can hear to our sir.
Yeah. Please, avoid disturbance and you mute your device, please. All of you, please. Hello. Hello. Hello.
Sir, you're audible.
Sir, your voice is audible, sir.
Yeah. Please open the textbook and go through the unit 1. What are the topics do you have in unit 1?
Romanticism, fancy and imagination,
Hello.
science and religion, dramatic monologue, lyric, gothic, historical novel, pre-Raphaelite.
So you have this romanticism first topic of the unit, no? Unit 1? Hello. Hello. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Hello.
Others, mute yourself. Yes,
Yeah.
we can hear you.
Yeah. So first topic is romanticism. Hello. Hello. First topic is romanticism. Hello. Can anyone of you respond, please?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. First topic is romanticism, no?
Yes.
Hello. Anyone of
Yes, sir.
anyone of you read the first paragraph, please? Hello. Anyone of you read first paragraph, please? Hello.
First 30 years of the 19th century
Hello.
is termed as a period.
Hello.
No, this is unfair. No, this is not the right thing. And what I was saying is
Hello.
The first 30 years of the 19th century is termed as a period of romantic revival.
Okay. So what is romanticism? Qasim. What is romanticism? Hello. Can anyone of you tell what is romanticism, please? Hello.
Romanticism.
Hello, please.
Different to
Okay.
one of these is emotion and expression.
Yeah. So here we have all the isms in our English literature. First topic is romanticism. Okay. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
So here, so when you look at the romanticism of the contemporary society, it has been a movement of great complexity. The multiplicity of meanings which the term evokes makes it very difficult to define. So when you look at the romanticism, you can see that how it has that kind of definition with the difficulty. you cannot define what is romanticism. As many as 10,000 different definitions of the terms may be in existence, as the critics believe. So, romanticism has the ambiguity in its definition. You can see that how this ism is with this kind of multiple definitions. It has been synonymously with the word romantic. Romantic to mean any of the following: emotional, fanciful, imaginative, ornamental, attractive, stupid, unreal, selfless, exuberant, adventurous, passionate, and so on. So here it has multiple meanings to say that how it is difficult to define its whatever the meaning to say that romanticism means this. So it has the multiple ways of yes. So here you look at that how romanticism brings about variety of responses from enthusiasm and approval to cynicism and disgust. Sir, any one of you, sir, hello.
Sir.
Yeah. So see that to go through the way how you have to understand romanticism with difficult to define, and it has the kind of whatever its ground reality and historical background. The origin of the word romanticism dates back to the romance tradition of the Middle Ages. Sir, please wear your shirt. Someone is in banyan. Please wear your shirt. Hello.
Sorry.
Kindly mute everyone.
Yeah, please.
Everybody
Mute
go on
all
mute,
of you,
please.
please. And one is one of the students is in banyan. Please wear the shirt. What is that nonsense? Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir, you are audible, sir.
Yeah, please. So here you look at that how it has a kind of historical background, and it is difficult to define. Romance tradition of the Middle Ages. The word romance was first used to denote a set of languages with a distinct identity separate from Latin, that is to say, the vernacular languages. So when you look at that, how it has the historical background, and then how it is making sense of its reality in our literature, to have the kind of concerns of the romanticism with multiple identities. So here Friedrich Schell is credited with having used the term romantic for the first time in the context of literature, though his definition did not have great clarity. So each and every critic has been defining what is romanticism and how you can see that romanticism with that kind of difficult to define, because romanticism means emotional, fanciful, imaginative, ornamental, attractive, stupid, unreal, selfless, exuberant, adventurous, passionate. So when you look at romantic word, the way how it is inclusive with multiple aspects to define its definition with that kind of difficulty. In the beginning, of the 18th century, its reputation reached the, hello. So when you look at the way how here, romanticism in 17th century and in 18th century, and then the critics had tried to remind that the way how it is making sense of emotional in content and imaginative in form. The romanticism is emotional in content, and imaginative in form. So when you look at all these, then you can understand
Sir, we are unable to hear you.
Sir, your video is stuck, sir.
So we are unable to hear you. Your video has struck. Hello, sir.
Sir, we are unable to hear. You are stuck, sir. You are unmuted.
No. Actually, what happened? It got disconnect. Fine. So here, when you look at that, the content of emotional and imaginative in form. So when you look at that, the way how romanticism has been defined by the different critics and the poets, and through the centuries, romantic movement, as we know it today, started in Britain. So it was started in Britain. This predominantly British version of the movement can be seen in its incipient form even in the 18th century, especially in Thomson's Seasons, Gray's Elegy, Macpherson's Oceanic Poetry, to name a few. In these poets, the concern with the death and decay, burial grounds, and broken castles brings out a melancholy and sentimental strain that has earned them the name Graveyard School of Poetry. It is through this early specialized movement that Romanticism reached the continent. So look at that way how 17th century and 18th century with that kind of difficult in its definition, because it inclusive with this kind of multiple aspects of its emotional and imaginative content. So when you look at the some of the features of the 18th century, so look at here the way how romanticism has been defined by the critics and poets, and here you can see the way it has the difference between 17th and 18th century. You can have that kind of multiple aspects in its existential reality of the 17th century and 18th century, and here it has that kind of background of the nature and its primitive attitude and concentration on natural pre-civilization ways of life. So here, when you look at the way how romanticism does not mean that the romanticization of beauty of the nature or something else. So it is making sense of the nature to have that kind of concerns of the humanity. So it has that kind of preoccupation with the nature and depicting scenery. And here it is making sense of that scenes of nature. So when you look at all these aspects, that the way to understand what is poetry of romanticism, there you can see that the way how spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings recollected in tranquility. Here, all these are all subjectivizing the natural world. So here it is the center of its existential reality to explore the invisible power of the God and nature, to say that how romanticism is making sense of its subjectivizing the natural world. So this is what one can understand how romanticism has been emerging through the centuries to have that kind of its concerns. So reflection and action, especially in the expression of this thought. So here you will see that the freedom of expression liberty. So when you look at the French Revolution and its impact on history of that 17th and 18th century, and then you can understand how Romanticism too had the touch of that French Revolution, liberty, equality, and fraternity, and freedom of expression. So here you can understand how our power of imagination and the way emotional whatever the concerns of the human touch of that concerns of the nature. So this is what exaltation of the individual and not generalized human being. So this is what here the freedom of expression and individuality, and it should not have that kind of generalization. So individual freedom is most important during this 18th and 19th century, to say that call a spade spade. So when you look at all these aspects of the Romanticism with its background, then you can understand how the poetic genius and creativity emerged to establish the identity of the nature with the individuality and freedom of expression. So here when you look at the poetry of Wordsworth, Coleridge, Shelley, Keats, Byron, and the novelist Sir Walter Scott, all of them are emerged from this background to have the kind of individuality and freedom of expression, to say how Romanticism is making sense of multiple aspects of its existential reality. So here the way how it is making the sense of reality of the contemporary society with whatever the aspects of the literature, as well as its existential reality of different genres. So one of the major challenges during this period was shift from agriculture to industry. So this is what the way how historical background of that contemporary society was with the agriculture to industry. So this is the way to understand how the human concern shifting from one aspect to the other aspect. So like that we can see how it has been emerging from this kind of background to understand how Romanticism is making sense of its liberty, equality, and fraternity, as well as the freedom of expression and individuality. So this is one can understand how it has been revolutionizing the society to have the kind of freedom of expression and individuality. So in the prelude and the other poems of Romanticism, you can see that the way how spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings recollected in tranquility by Wordsworth. So poetry does not mean that it is with the kind of whatever the structure of its presentation. It has that kind of thematic concerns of its existential reality of spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings recollected in tranquility. So there you see emotion and imagination with the individual expression, and to have that kind of liberty and fraternity and equality. So here if you look at lyrical ballads, and there you can understand how Wordsworth and Coleridge had tried to make use of the concerns of the nature into their poetic genius and creativity. So this is what one can understand how Romanticism has that kind of colloquial language used in actual speech by common people. So it is crystal clear, it is in vivid expression, it is lucid to understand by common man when they are going to read poetry of that contemporary age by the poets. So when you look at the way how it points out that the departure was in the image of the child. So when you look at that kind of concerns of the childhood, and then here you can understand how it is making sense of that kind of whatever the concerns of the emotion and imagination and individuality and freedom of expression. All these are all there into this kind of whatever the concerns of the Romanticism. So when you go through that, the language and symmetric composition favored by the new classical artists. So this is what you can understand how Romanticism does not mean that emotion and imagination. It has that kind of overwhelming joy of its existential reality, with the concerns of the nature. And in the lap of the nature, human beings can be cured their whatever the ill health and other things. So like that here, the way how in Romanticism poetry had established its identity with this kind of individual perception and responsiveness. So this is what one can understand, how individuality and freedom of expression and liberty, equality, fraternity, and the influence of the French Revolution, are all making into these kind of aspects of romanticism, to say how it is with the difficulty to define what is romanticism. So the dynamic natures of subjectivity, as well as its expression into its whatever the genres of that, there you can see innocence and experience, youth and old, rural and urban life, human nature and external nature, and similar concerns predominated. So you will see that kind of paradoxical whatever the concerns of the contemporary society, there you will see that child and youth and innocence and experience, and you will see that the rural and urban. So this is what the way how you will see that the infusiveness of the old and youth and innocence and experience. So like that, each and every aspect is making sense of the paradoxical expression of individuality and imagination and emotional whatever the feelings of that. So the way how romantic tradition, but it is making sense of here the movement with this kind of all the historical backgrounds. So here one can understand how the romantic movement has been influencing the society to have that the importance of the nature in human life. Nature does not mean that it's whatever the beauty. It has that kind of influence of the pantheism, who believes nature as God. Like that, you can understand how Wordsworth's ideal poetry, emotion recollected in tranquility. So each and every poet has been defining poetry, is making sense of its ground reality of the historical concerns. So for instance, if you look at Matthew Arnold's definition of poetry, it is criticism of life, it is interprets us, it sustains us, it consoles us. So when you look at the classical, neoclassical and romantic and Victorian poets definition, the way how romantic poetry differs with the other ages, other centuries poetry, to understand that to follow the nature, we have to follow the nature. We should not go beyond the nature, and we should not against the nature. So like that, here you can understand how romantic age also has that kind of other poets, dramatists, as well as the novelists, to understand how all these are all into this kind of concerns of our emotion, as well as imagination, individuality, and freedom of expression, and the way how you can understand here Coleridge proposes in Apology for his literary life and opinion. So one you can see each and every poet has been trying to say that the way how we have to define poetry with the concerns of the romanticism. There you can see fancy and imagination. Like that, each and every poet has been trying to say that how it is making sense of its identity into a new
Sir, not audible to you, sir.
Sir, your video got stuck, sir.
Sir, your voice is not audible here.
Maybe network issue, I feel, sir.
Friends, please mute yourself because sir is telling we can't unable to hear. Please mute yourself.
Mute both the audio and video.
Hello? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So here, I have finished one topic of this, romanticism of Unit 1. Now we'll, hello?
Yes, sir.
Hello, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Again, it's struck.
You are not audible, sir.
So your video got stuck, sir.
So, hello? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Hello?
sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Can anyone say, features of romanticism? Hello? Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes,
Yeah,
Romanticism
Yeah.
is an intellectual, romantic movement and a literary movement in art and literature in the 18th and 19th centuries in revolt
Yeah.
against the new classicism of the previous centuries. According to
Yeah.
T.S. Eliot, Romanticism is the fragmentary, immature, and chaotic. Classicism is the complete and orderly.
Yeah. So here, see, here we have completed romanticism, and then we'll move to fancy and imagination. What is the next topic? Hello? Hello?
Yeah, fancy and imagination.
Yeah, fancy and imagination. So here, fancy and imagination are part of romanticism. So now we look at how fancy and imagination defined by the romantic poets. So can anyone of you read the first paragraph? Hello? Can anyone
Yes,
of you
sir.
read the
Yes, sir.
first
The
paragraph,
phrase of
please?
fancy and
Yeah, please.
imagination is associated with the criticism of Coleridge in his seminal text called Biographia Literaria. This
Yeah.
is used by Coleridge in the order to distinguish between the two levels of inspiration which go into process of creativity, especially when composing a poem. Fancy and imagination are compared and contrasted, and it is interpreted on the basis of tenets put forward by Coleridge.
Right. Now here you look at that how romanticism is, difficult to define. And when you look at that, how it has, that kind of inclusiveness of emotion, intellectuality, imagination, and pantheism, and there are many things to say that how it is a, sense of its creativity and criticism. Here, the pioneers of the Romanticism, Wordsworth and Coleridge, had, tried to say that how you can have that kind of freedom of expression and individuality with that kind of concerns of the emotions and imagination. Now we look at that fancy and imagination in terms of the romanticism. And here Coleridge had tried to see that in his Biographia Literaria, that how you can say that these are, in romantic whatever the concerns, and how it is making sense of that kind of fancy and imagination. Are they similar? Are they synonyms? Or they are differing into its existential reality of its whatever the concerns. So the term have long history, starting much before the Romantic age. So here the way how each and every ism has been emerging through the centuries and analyzed to have its whatever the historical background with that kind of contemporary reality. So here the way how it has been emerging in the pre-romantic age, and how it is analyzed, defined, and counter argued by different philosophers, thinkers, as well as intellectuals, so that you can see that the way how it has that ideological background, and at the same time the other side creativity and critical endeavors of its existential reality. So here Coleridge had tried to see that the literature of the 19th century with this kind of concerns of the fancy and imagination, to say how it has that kind of critical history through the centuries. And here the way to understand way back to centuries of romantic age of the its contemporary reality with the historical concerns. There he had tried to say that Plato's thought and its association with imagination to precedence. So here each and every aspect of the literature has been defined crystal clearly with its expression. But here fancy and imagination have been coming through the centuries with the difficult to define by the each and every poet or novelist or anybody else of that contemporary age. So here try to refer that how Shakespeare is credited with a popular definition of imagination as mentioned by him in Midsummer's Night's Dream, where he says, the lunatic, the lover, and the poet are of imagination all compact. So way back to centuries of the 19th century, and then locating Shakespeare's definition of imagination in his Midsummer's Night's Dream, there how Shakespeare had that kind of touch of the imagination, and which differs with the other definitions of the imagination. So like that he says that lunatic, the lover, and the poet are of imagination all compact. He also says imagination bodies forth the forms of things unknown. So look at the way how you are going away from the ground reality of your existential reality, because you are with that kind of imagination, and you can see that unknown things, unforeseen things in its existential expression. So you can have the kind of touch of the imagination to establish that whatever the concerns of the imagination beyond the utmost bound of human thought. For instance, if you look at the poetic genius and the creativity of Matthew Arnold, to follow knowledge with the sinking stars beyond the utmost bound of human thought. So each and every its expression of use of diction, making sense of that way. Unknown things you are going to look at.
Sir, you are not audible.
Hello everyone. Those who are not joined that group, just I'm sharing my screen. Just capture it. Okay. Let's involve all the admin numbers of our group.
Thank you, sister.
All of these numbers are admin numbers.
Many admins are there in our group. You can select anyone and request them to add your number in the group. Okay.
Thank you so much, sister. Thank you very much.
अच्छा फोन यहाँ पे लो हेलो
Yes, hello.
Vinisa, class is supposed to start.
It was already going. I don't know what happened with this, sir. Some internet issue maybe. He might come back. Please meanwhile mute.
Please make your voice mute. Please mute your mic, please.
Hello. Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. It got disconnected. Now we'll continue the same topic, fancy and imagination. So here you look at that the definition of fancy and imagination through the centuries with this kind of difficulty to define. And then here, what is fancy and imagination? Here you can see the difference between these two components of the romantic age. Fancy means assimilation of ideas. Hello, can you hear me? Hello.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Fancy means assimilation of ideas, and imagination means creative association of ideas. Creative assimilation of ideas. So here, when you look at make crystal clear, whatever the definition by Coleridge, to understand that how he differs with the other philosophers of the contemporary age, as well as thinkers and poets of that contemporary age, poetic genius and the creativity. So we can see that how Coleridge has the unique distinction of it's whatever the expression with that kind of literature in a novel manner. Literature means not only the poetic genius and the creativity uniqueness.
Excuse me, sir. Is there any possibility to make all the predictions from your end, sir? Sir, is there any possibility to make all the...
your voice, disturbing to others.
Sir, Narla Nagaraju needs to mute.
device. See here, one of the students, please mute, don't disturb the class. Don't disturb the class, please. So here you will see that Coleridge ascribes more importance to his discussion on imagination. So here you can see how Coleridge had that kind of crystal clear idea of his whatever the definition of the imagination. So here we have the primary imagination and secondary imagination. Primary imagination, according to him, is that quality of the mind which forges a link between sensation and perception. So as and when he defined that the imagination with the primary and secondary, how it has that kind of connection between these all aspects of its whatever the human concerns of primary and secondary imagination. So primary and secondary imagination differ only in degree and in the mode of its operation. So this is what you can see how the primary imagination and secondary imagination are all with this kind of it's whatever the concerns. The function of secondary imagination as defined by Coleridge is that it dissolves, diffuses, dissipates in order to recreate or where the process is rendered impossible, yet still at all events it struggles to idealize and to unify. So here when you look at that way to understand how primary and secondary imagination are into its whatever the identity of its own. So here Coleridge's theory is derived from Plato. For instance, in the 17th chapter, you will see that how Biographia Literaria, he says that mind's self-experience in the act of thinking, mind's self-experience in the act of thinking, as we all know that freedom of expression, individuality, liberty, equality and fraternity, as well as here emotionals and imagination are all, how it is bound to the subjectivity of active and passive. So like that here you can see how is the critical theory is making sense of imagination in the creative process results in sublime works of art. Coleridge speaks of the poetry of Wordsworth as an example of how the spirit of unity is attained. So here you can understand how the way the poetry has been defined by the poets as well as the other philosophers of the contemporary and pre-19th century. So this is the way to understand how Wordsworth differs with Coleridge, no matter of the same contemporary reality of the individuality and emotions and expressions and all. And here you will see that Wordsworth's best poetry has all these qualities because he could take the material which custom has bedimmed and change it imaginatively to represent the depth and height of the ideal world. So the definition of Wordsworth differs with the Coleridge because he has that kind of spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings recollected in tranquility. So that shows the imagination in its in-depth concerns of the beauty of the nature. And Coleridge has the unique distinction of its whatever the literary imagination with a novel manner. The age of reason. Here imagination is known as the age of reason by Coleridge. To understand how another aspect of Coleridge, interest in dreams, the unconsciousness workings of the human mind, and his affinity, to recording experiences under the influence of opium. So here, when you look at the sense of belongingness of the subjective and objective, and how fancy and imagination, have been, defined by the philosophers, thinkers, and intellectuals, and here the poet had tried to divide that the fancy and imagination with this kind of whatever its divisions of its existential reality of emotional feelings and its expression with that kind of imagination. So here fancy means association of ideas. Imagination means creative association of ideas. So there you have that kind of primary and secondary imagination, and how the primary, will lead to the secondary imagination, and how it lifts from that kind of subjectivity with the emotional, whatever the imagination into the unknown, unforeseen, whatever the concerns. So here you can understand how the, romantic age with that kind of difficulty of its definition, and here you can understand how he had tried to formulate the negative capability by kids. What is negative capability is nothing but it is, you cannot, describe in your own, and it has that kind of whatever the, aspects which are in depth with the concerns of beauty of the nature and its creative endeavors of that whatever the primary and secondary imagination. So the scope of imagination is with that kind of skeptical. So when you look at that, you cannot see, but you have to have the kind of imagination which uplifts you to have that how fancy and imagination differs into its expression of whatever the genre, and then you can understand and how it influences the 20th century the fancy and imagination or with this kind of it's whatever the ground reality of the creativity and the critical thinking. So here we have seen that the romantic age and fancy and imagination, and then how romantic poets had the influence of the French Revolution, and then how they are the that kind of creative whatever the expression with the emotions and imagination. And here that literature does not mean that human expression with the facts. It has the kind of openness to receive and to explore and to have the emotions and which are in depth from our human concerns, and then you can see the imagination which uplifts the human nature to understand that how we have that unknown unforeseen aspects to express by our subjectivity. So this is what the romantic poets had, that kind of freedom of expression, age of reason, and how it is with that kind of collectiveness of its whatever the inclusiveness of fancy and imagination. So with this I can say that romantic age with that kind of complexity to define its existential reality in literature, because it has that kind of unforeseen unknown aspects into its expression through the emotional and imagination, and how they differ with the other ages of the literature of our British. So when you look at Coleridge and Wordsworth with this kind of stand of the fancy and imagination, and the way to understand how you have to look at the literature with the new ideas, new frame of concerns of its existential reality. So with this I completed two topics here. Now we'll move to science and religion. Can any one of you read the first paragraph? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Science
sir.
and religion. Science and religion introduction.
Yeah, science
The
and
19th
religion.
century.
Yeah.
The 19th century science and religion underwent great dramatic changes. One could find varied relationships crossing time and boundary, and from one individual to other.
Yeah.
There seemed to be great significance apart from the existing debates between science and religion. Works of late 19th century historians of science and religion influenced people greatly. Britain has begun seeing religious faith and science in beautiful accordance. The facets of the study of God's word in the Bible and his works in nature explain the common concept of a strong faith. William Paley wrote Natural Theology in 1802 and explained the existence of a designing God. By 1830s, a few Christians saw a need to prove this concept of Paley. The continuation could be seen in Bridgewater Treatises 1833 to 36, reconfiguring the concept of Paley in various ways to meet new discoveries. Some form of theology of nature proved to be harmonious between science and faith. It became the mainstream position for most men of science and other individuals by 1860s. At the same time, some working class radicals, especially from France, began arguing the role of God in the universe and undermined the Anglican Catholic religious establishment.
Yeah. So here, what is science? Tell me. Any one of you, please. What is science?
Science is an accumulation of facts based on
Why do
principles.
we need to? Okay. So here, you said that based on principles.
Facts, sir,
I say
facts.
here, science. Yes, facts. Yeah, facts. So I say here, science is an experiment with truth. Science is an. Hello.
Question to the truth.
Hello.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Hello. Yeah.
Sir,
Science
you can
is
hear, sir.
an experiment with the truth.
Truth.
So here, you should understand that how science is an experiment with truth. It is a miracle. You have to say that how truth is, it's with that kind of identity to say call a spade. And here, how, religion differs with this science. What is religion? Yes, can any one of you? Hello?
Belief system, sir.
Hello?
Believing.
Strong belief in some customs and
So here,
faith.
So here, see here,
The belief in a God
if you
or
look at,
gods and the
Marx,
activities connected with this.
if you look at the definition of Marx on, religion, religion is an opium. Religion is not only an opium, you have to say before that, religion is voice of voiceless. Religion is voice of voiceless, and it is an opium. So blindly you may believe, your whatever the religion which you were born. No matter of science or technology or any other thing, you see that, no, this is my religion. I have the faith of my God and whatever the spirituality and the way how it has been, emerging through the centuries to say that with the concerns of the God in the, whatever the representation of the religion. So here we have crystal clear idea about the science and the religion to say that how, this 19th century is a remarkable stand with this kind of, controversial elements of the subjectiveness, science and religion. So if you look at the subjectivity of its expression with the emotions and imagination, you see that to have the freedom of expression, and you differ with the science and the religion sometimes. So here, when you look at the individuality of your own, then the relation between science and religion formed one of the primary subjects of debate in this age. So this is what one can understand how Victorian intellectuals also prided themselves on their scientific acumen, began waging a war against religious beliefs on the count that they did not follow the rules of common sense or logic. So here you see that there is a break from the tradition towards the modernity, and when you look at this kind of shift from the tradition to the modernity, there you can understand how Victorian intellectuals had tried to broken the whatever the way back to centuries tradition to have the kind of whatever the intellectual expression of their own to understand that subjectivity, imagination, as well as the intellectuality are all against the religious beliefs on the account that they did not follow the rules of common sense or logic. So here there should not be any kind of common sense or logic. There should be their own expression, and here the way to understand how the science thus gained unparalleled prominence in the Victorian era. But religion too remained a dominant influence on the life and literature of the time. So here we have seen fancy and imagination and science and religion parallelly, with this kind of whatever its concerns with the religion. So this is what how science and religion are into the literature to make or break its whatever the expression with the emotion and the imagination. So this is the way to understand how this 19th century is with this kind of romanticism to have its whatever concerns of the creativity as well as critical theories of that contemporary society. So here we have seen that how religion was often used in art to recreate a moral order. Hello, hello.
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yeah, it got disconnected. No, yeah. So here we have seen that science and religion in literature, that how literature had the influence of the science and religion to have the creativity with its whatever the individuality, emotions, in as well as the intellectual expression through the imagination. So here science was trying to introduce another kind of order to replace the order which the laws of religious faith had demolished. So when you look at the agriculture towards the industry, tradition towards the modernity, religion versus science, and here subjectivity versus science and religion, and here self versus society. So all these are all paradoxical, good versus bad, and here child versus youth. And when you look at all these paradoxical elements into its existential reality, that how century is with this kind of difficulty to define its creativity with the critical theories. So one after the other challenges that it's whatever the existence on its own. So look at the way how science is with the moral order, and as well as how it has that kind of it's whatever the logic. And here the religion, it does not have the any kind of logic. It has only moral order, and it balances the whatever the concerns of its own. So look at the way. Yeah. So here you can understand how this science and religion are all into its existential reality of the 19th century to establish literature with this kind of unknown, unforeseen whatever the expression of emotions and intellectuality as well as imagination. So here literature of the 19th century that is making sense of this kind of ambiguity, and at the same time it has that kind of creativity. Science temperament came to be synonymous with from all concerns of science. So as we all know that science is nothing but the experiment with truth, fact. And religion does not have any kind of experiment, and it has only moral orders, and it never and ever looks at the logic. So when you see that science versus the religion, then your religion came to be designed as opium. As I told you, according to Marx, religion is an opium, and it is the voice of voiceless. So when you look at all these, that the way how it's stand with this kind of historical background. So here, science and religion are all with this kind of whatever concerns of its existential reality, and with the complexity of its identities. And then here we have the way how Victorian age is between a conflict, science and religion. So it is irresolvable, conflict between science and religion in the Victorian age. So here, hello, please don't disturb the class. Mute your device, please. Hello, mute your device, please. So look at the way how Victorian age with the kind of irresolvable conflict between science and religion, and here negative impact on evolution of thought and behavior during the period, bringing about the complex times of the post-World War years, but it had a positive side too. So here we have the kind of age which is with this kind of complexity, and the other side is with the positive positive way of looking at things. And here the literature of the 19th century is with this kind of multiple complexities of its whatever the socio-political, economical, and cultural aspects, as well as the French Revolution and World Wars. And then you see that how human concerns are all with this kind of whatever the receiving nature of science, religion, and fancy and imagination. So each and every aspect of its existential reality says that the way how this age is with this kind of age of reason. Romanticism is making sense of the freedom of expression, individuality, emotions, imagination, and with that kind of complexity to say how it is with this kind of dilemma of its whatever the existential reality of the whatever understanding of the subject. Okay, so with this I think the third topic is also science and religion are over, and then we'll see next topic. Can I continue this class? Hello.
Yes, sir, you can.
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
You can.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Your class
Yes, sir.
is 9 to 10:30, no? Hello.
No, sir, to 11:30.
9 to 11, sir.
11:30.
9 to 11.
Okay.
9 to 11, sir.
Right. Now we'll come to the another topic, that is dramatic monologue. Okay. So please, read any one of you of this dramatic monologue topic. Paragraph 1.
Dramatic monologue. The dramatic monologue has been used as a popular narrative technique by man, literary artist over the 300 years. It is very similar to the soliloquy. The use of the dramatic monologue is confined to poetry alone. Initially used by the Romantic poets, the Middle Victorian poets like Alfred Tennyson and Robert Browning used the dramatic monologue to create a splendid body of work. Should I do the introduction also, sir?
Yeah, please.
Dramatic monologue, an introduction. M.H. Abrams, in his popular glossary, listed the three salient features of the dramatic monologue. Those are: a single person, who is patently not the poet, utters the speech that makes up the whole of the poem, in a specific situation at a critical moment. In other words, the poet cannot be the narrator. The second one is, the narrator addresses and interacts with one or more other people. The reader knows that there is an audience to the speaker, but the poem does not inform the reader about the audience's reaction. And the third one is, the main principle controlling the poet's choice and formulation of what the lyric speaker says is to reveal to the reader in a way that enhances his interest, the speaker's temperament and character. The monologue in its purpose and nature is very closely related to the soliloquy. Soliloquy is used as a narrative technique to inform the audience about the character, temperament, and ideology. The celebrated 16th century playwright William Shakespeare was a master at using the soliloquy. Plays such as Hamlet and Macbeth include some of the most popular soliloquies written in English language. In poetry, the dramatic monologue was first used by the Romantic.
So here, we have.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So here, you should know that all the literary terms. For instance, if you are going to read the poetry, what is poetry? Yes, any one of you, please. Yes, any of you, please respond. What is poetry?
Poetry is
Please, any one of you.
imagination of the poet who describes his imagination using the words and figures of speech in his writings.
Yeah. Okay. So here we have seen the definition of poetry by Wordsworth: a spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings recollected in tranquility. And Matthew Arnold's criticism of our life, it interprets us, it sustains us, it consoles us, and it is more than philosophy. Poetry is more than philosophy. So each and every poet has been trying to define that poetry. And when you look at that, how the poetic genius and the creativity is making sense of its expression with the emotions and imagination. So here you see that how dramatic monologue is part of it's whatever the narration, expression, and how it is established into the poetic genius and the creativity. For instance, you look at soliloquy and dramatic monologue with its difference of whatever the narration towards the characters and as well as the audience. And here you look at, according to our image of the Abraham's glossary of literary terms, that he had defined that poetry as well as use of the dramatic monologue into its whatever the expression. A poet will have that kind of its expression with this kind of dramatic monologue, and he never and ever looks at that whatever the concerns of the audience. He will try to describe the whatever the character of its reality. And he has been trying to say that the dramatic monologue, which emerges from its emotions and imagination to express the feelings of his own. And the way how he has been trying to look at that poetic genius and creativity with its whatever the expression and unconcerned by the audience. So here you look at the way how soliloquy is concerned with the a single man's expression and towards the audience. But whereas in dramatic monologue, the audience do not have that kind of whatever their concern towards the expression of a single man. So here you can understand how the Victorian poets had extensively used this dramatic monologue with the concerns of their whatever the emotions. For instance, here we have the Tinton Abbey and Alfred Tennyson's Ulysses and My Lost Duchess by Robert Browning. For instance, if you look at Ulysses by Alfred Tennyson, so the single man is with this kind of stand of his own to express his feelings towards the audience and to have the kind of characteristic features. And he, never and ever, concerns with the audience, the response. He always tries to say that a single man to have that kind of singleness of thought with the unique expression. So this is what, to understand that emotional form where the subject matter of the poem is well argued. The qualities of rationality and argument suited the temperament of the scientific and rational Victorian age almost perfectly. So here we have seen that the way how all these whatever the dramatic monologue with this kind of its features and how the poets of Victorian age had extensively used the dramatic monologue is believed to be derived from drama and lyric. it has some similarities to the soliloquy in drama. So you can see that the way how it is part of the drama and lyric, and how it is very close to the soliloquy. A poem which is designated as a dramatic monologue consists of the speech of a single character. So look at that way how dramatic monologue and interior monologue. What is interior monologue? Yes, can anyone of you? Hello? 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 Hello?
Yes, sir.
Hello, can anyone of you please respond? Hello? What is dramatic monologue and interior monologue? Yes, please. Can anyone of you please? Can anyone of you define? Hello? Hello?
Yes,
So look at here. A
So
dramatic monologue is.
monologue is a type of
Yes,
poetry.
please.
Dramatic monologue is a type of poetry
Yeah.
written in the form of speech of an individual character.
Okay. What is interior monologue? What is interior monologue? Dialogue within self. Dialogue within. Hello. So right, dialogue with himself. So here the speaker is usually a single fictional or historical character. So here, Alfred Tennyson uses, hello. Here the speaker is usually a single fictional or historical character. For instance, a king or a fictional, fictional.
Sir, we are receiving double.
How I know, but I can't do anything. No? Here, technically, from that operator side, there will be this kind of technical glitch.
Sir, your coming.
Please,
Everyone,
no. Couple of students, unmuted the device. Please mute device.
Within the students,
See here, within the students, some of them are unmuted. Please mute your device so that it will not have any kind of resound. Please try to cooperate the class. Okay, so now look at how it has that kind of features of its singleness of thought and its characteristic features, fictional and historical. Here, there are numerous contexts involved in a dramatic monologue. For instance, here Ulysses, king with that kind of historical background is in search of knowledge, and here he always tries to look at that the world with the knowledge. And in search of knowledge, he left his kingdom, and he says that, in the heroic couplet, to follow knowledge like sinking stars beyond utmost bound of human thought. So the concluding part of the Ulysses had the touch of the knowledge. So the heroic nature of the character is, with the reflection of it's whatever the dramatic monologue. So here the origin of dramatic monologue is traced to the preoccupation of the 19th century, and here Cornelia DJ Pearls as a vehicle for the performance of thought. So here you can see that language is arbitrary. According to George Orwell, language is a political tool. So here the poetry of the Romantics and Victorians differs in its expression because of the individuality and imagination. And so similarly here, one of the critics defined that dramatic monologue is nothing but a vehicle to perform the thought, performance of a thought. So like that, the dramatic monologue, this element of performance is extremely significant. So here it how it has that kind of it's whatever the nuances of performance of thought, and it plays significant role in its expression. The goal of particular monologue may be sometimes apparent, while at other times it is subtly cloaked. So here you look at that how dramatic monologue is making sense of its a ground reality of a single man's expression, and how it is a vehicle of performance of a single character, maybe fixed or historical. So like that here characteristics of dramatic monologue may also be interpreted as being persons who are seeking desperately for transformation at various levels, personal, professional, and spiritual. So here the way how dramatic monologue used as a vehicle to perform of thought, as well as it is looking at the subject with that kind of professional and spiritual elevation, and it has the kind of resourcefulness to see that the way how the subjectivity is more elevated than the objectivity. Monologues appear rigid and inflexible. Monologues appear rigid and inflexible, and here you can see that extreme positions, but this does not necessarily mean that they are mentally unhinged. Since such an amount of ambiguity is built into the form itself, the dramatic monologue is highly suitable for demonstrating complex moral choices. So here it is inclusive of complex and moral choices because of written and elevation of the personal, professional, and spirituality of that single man's expression with this kind of complexity and of moral as well as choices. So you can see that the way how dramatic monologue has its whatever the nuances, and it is a vehicle to performance of whatever the thought and art, and like that the idea that is expanded in the dramatic monologue is often one whose very articulation is an important step in actualizing it. So here the singleness of thought and or spiritual, and it is the complexity of moral choices, as well as it's an expansion of subjectivity with this kind of elevation. So here it emphasizes the actualization, how Browning's poem, The Bishop Ordered, his tomb, there is a clear performance of the need for ordering which the speaker displays. So here, the way how the single character is making sense of its expression with the subjectivity, personal, whatever concerns. And here you can understand how here making its sense of actuality in its presentation. So Browning's My Lost Duchess and Alfred Tennyson's Ulysses, and here Tinton Abbey, and the way how it differs with the soliloquy. All these are all into these to understand how a singleness of thought and the use of dramatic monologue to perform of the whatever the thought. So here, as we all know that this is true of most of speakers of the dramatic monologue. So this is the way to understand how dramatic monologue is, often reveals unwittingly more than he sees set out to say. So the target of its expression is maybe a plural or singular, but it establishes the kind of actuality of the characteristic features of he or she. So like that here, an important observation by Herbert F. Tucker about the speaker's words in the dramatic monologue is that these words gain ascendancy over what they set out to mean. So here its implied meaning is something else, and how it provokes the listener, the audience, and it is uncomfortable their response. No matter of any kind of response, maybe it is complex choice. But here, the speaker always tries to establish the actuality of its subject. So this is what you can see in Robert Brown's My Last Duchess. The Duke is the speaker who gets carried away by what he is saying, as one utterance leads to another in a series of unconscious confidences which have a totality different meaning than what the speaker is aware of or wanted to convey. So here you look at the four kinds of meaning by for Greaves, Aya Richards. If you look at all these, then sense, feeling, tone, and intention. No matter of its coherence, but it is with that kind of coherence to have the subject with its actuality. So this is what the way how the single speaker, in dramatic monologue, aware of whatever is expression. So here the speaker assumes the presence of an audience consisting of one or sometimes more than one person. So this is what here how it is a collaborative response of the audience as well as the one person, and then the speaker always assumes that there are audience, and the silence audience is essential for the dramatic monologue. So here you can see that the way how the speaker always tries to establish the actuality while using this dramatic monologue as a vehicle to perform the thought, and he assumes that there are many audience or one person. No matter, but it is making sense of it's whatever the silence of audience. There should not be any kind of response of a single person or audience, and then here the speaker always tries to establish its identity with this kind of singleness of thought and mind, with the uniqueness of its whatever the performance of art. So here you just see the way how this dramatic monologue as a form lays emphasis on the element of performance in theoretically is predominant. So this is what the way how the dramatic monologue in poetry as a tool to look at the use of the content and the subject as well as its elevation and concern to the one person or many audience, no matter, but it establishes the actuality of the performance of thought. The language of dramatic monologue is distinct. So here you look at how the dramatic monologue is with this kind of use of the distinctiveness of its expression. So here you can understand the significant use of language that is often appears superfluous with abundance of expression. So this is what you can understand, that subtle thought in subtle expression, it has that kind of beauty, uniqueness, and you can understand what whatever the speaker wants to say. So here you can see that the subjectivity with its elevation of profession or spirituality, or the way how audience are silenced to receive it. A dramatic monologue can be best be identified by analyzing the effect it has on the reader instead of talking only about its form. So here you can understand that how it has that kind of whatever usage of the language and the audience, and how it's making sense of its identity with this kind of creativity and critical whatever the expression. The question of morality is thus a significant dimension of the monologue. And often the dramatic movement seems to keep in abeyance the moral judgment of the reader. So here the audience or the reader do not have any kind of judgment of their own. And you look at the way use of the whatever the subject, characteristic features, and the language, here you can see that the dilemma of the reader as well as the audience not to take any kind of judgment on its expression. So when you look at the way how the readers and the audience will remain in that kind of abeyance of judgment not to have a single aspect of its expression of the whatever the characteristic features of the subject, because it has that kind of complexity of its choice, and it expresses anything of that subject, and it may be moral, ethical, or spiritual. But here the awareness of the readers and the audience will remain not to judge anything of its subject reality, but the dramatist always, the poet always tries to establish that the singleness of thought with this kind of elevate of the performance or the profession or any kind of thing. So when you look at Tennyson's Ulysses and Browning's Philosophy and Milo's Duchess, and all into this kind of concerns of its whatever the existential reality with that kind of actuality. So here, when you look at all these, then you can understand how its usage of the whatever the performance of thought and the singleness of the idea, as well as the use of the language, and how it assumes that audience and a single person, and like that you can see the way how we have to understand the dramatic monologue as a vehicle to perform of thought. So this is what you can see the way how Victorian age had the touch of this kind of complexity with this kind of dramatic monologue in poetic genius and creativity, with this kind of critical analysis of the poem with the subjectivity and its elevation of profession or spirituality and the character with this kind of thematic concerns. So the subject here rather than the response of the reader as well as the audience, because the single speaker always tries to establish the actuality of the subject no matter of anything. So this is what the here in dramatic monologue to understand the whatever the poetic genius and the hello.
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So here we have completed this dramatic monologue, and we'll see. Shall I take one more topic?
No, sir. 11 o'clock we have one more class.
ये सब्जेक्ट मेरे हाँ ये ना पन्नू ना ना तो ओके all the best. Bye. So here hello, shall I take one more topic here? Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Yeah. Can I start one more topic?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Please,
sir.
one of you read,
Sir, 4 minutes are left. Sir, only 4 minutes are left. Yes,
okay.
sir.
So here, I got
11 o'clock one more class.
yeah. See here, whatever the topics today I completed, you please go through that. Then we'll discuss in next class, and we'll start the next topic tomorrow. Hopefully, we'll complete the rest of the topics of this unit by tomorrow. Okay. So here, I think we have
Yes, sir.
how many topics left over in this unit? How many topics are left over in this unit? Hello.
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 And
Yeah.
topics left.
See, here we had completed 4 topics, and then how many topics are there?
Four topics are there, sir. Romanticism, fancy and imagination, science and religion, dramatic monologue. Remaining 4 topics are there: lyrics, gothic, historical novel, rhetorics.
So we'll complete tomorrow these 4 topics in one class, so that we'll complete 1 unit tomorrow. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah, please, whatever I taught, all these 4 topics, you please go through that. Then we'll discuss tomorrow, and we'll start the rest of the other topics of this unit to complete tomorrow. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. So please, go through whatever the material you have, and now and then we'll have questions, related to exam as well as your whatever gaps of understanding the material. Okay. So with this, I give the okay. Hello.
Okay, sir.
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you,
sir.
sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Hello.
Yes, what topics we have completed?